Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a chapter of history that's often just forgotten. It's a story that kicks off with a massive lie, but ends with this absolutely incredible legacy. It's a dark journey, for sure, a story about people who were deceived, but who, against all odds, triumphed. So, have you ever come across this word, Girmitiyas? It's a term that holds, a whole century of struggle, of survival, and of an unbreakable spirit. So let's really dig into the story behind that name. Okay, so to really get who the Girmitiyas were, we have to start with the word itself, because wrapped up in that one word is the whole deception. This is a story that started not with a signature, but with a thumbprint on a contract most couldn't even read. So the name itself, Girmitiya, actually comes from a total misunderstanding. It's kind of wild, right? These laborers, many of whom were illiterate, couldn't pronounce the English word agreement. It came out sounding like Girmit. And just like that, the people who put their thumbprint on that Girmit, well, they became the Girmitiyas. And the deception was just so blatant. Recruiters in places like Benares and Gorakhpur would spin these fantastic tales of a wonderful journey to Sri Ram's Island, a mythical land of opportunity. But the reality? It was a one-way ticket to brutal, back-breaking labor on sugarcane plantations, thousands of miles from everything they knew. So you've got to ask, why did this happen? Well, back in 1834, the British Empire abolished slavery, and that created a huge labor shortage on their colonial plantations. They were desperate for cheap labor, and they turned their eyes to India. That's how the indentured labor system was born. You can see how it played out here. The whole system kicked off right after slavery was abolished. The first ship to Suriname, the Lalarook, sailed in 1873. And this brutal system lasted all the way until 1916, when it was finally shut down after years of protests. We're talking about a period of more than 80 years. And that first ship, the Lalarook, just try to imagine it. 410 people, 410 souls packed onto a single vessel, sailing from Kolkata for months into the complete unknown. The conditions were just inhuman, and a terrible preview of the life that was waiting for them. The conditions on these ships were so horrific, survival itself was a battle. Disease spread like wildfire, and there was zero medical care. The ship captains had a simple, cruel logic. To stop an outbreak, they would often just pick up anyone who was sick and throw them overboard. Gone. But in the midst of all this shared suffering, something pretty remarkable happened. All those rigid lines of caste and religion that defined their lives back home, they just dissolved in the ocean air. On those ships, they forged a new, unbreakable identity. They became Jahaji Bhai, shipbrothers. Now, arriving in a new land didn't end their struggle, not even close. It just changed its form. The ship was gone, sure, but the plantation became their new prison. Life was just unimaginably brutal. Their living quarters were so cramped, they couldn't even sleep with their legs stretched out. They were treated like property. And for the women, who were intentionally kept in the minority, life was even more dangerous. At the end of their 5-year contract, going back to a colonized India wasn't much of an option, so most stayed, taking a small plot of land instead of a ticket home. Think about it. They were stripped of their freedom, their homes, their families. But they were not stripped of their soul. So what did they hold on to with every fiber of their being? What could nobody take from them? They carried their identity. These weren't just things. They were lifelines. The sacred words of the Ramtari Manas and the Gita, the sounds of their languages like Bhojpuri and Awadhi, their songs, their rituals. These became their anchors to a home they would never see again. But here's the amazing part. Their story doesn't end with hardship. It completely transforms into one of astonishing achievement. The seeds of culture they planted in this foreign soil, well, they blossomed in the most incredible ways. And this slide just says it all. Look at that arc. Then, indentured laborer. Now, presidents and prime ministers. Let that sink in for a second. From laborers bound by a lie, their descendants rose to become leaders of nations. This wasn't overnight. This was a climb built over generations of immense sacrifice and a relentless focus on a better future. This moment right here perfectly captures that triumph. That's Chandrika Prasad Santokhi, the president of Suriname, a proud descendant of Girmitiyas, and he's taking his oath of office in Sanskrit. The ancient language they fought so hard to preserve now echoes in the highest office of their new home. It's just incredible. And get this, they didn't just preserve their languages. They created a new one, Sarnami Hindi. It's a fusion of the dialects they brought with them, and today it's a recognized language in surname. It is a living, breathing testament to their shared history and their resilience. So all this brings up a really important question for us today. Why is remembering this painful past so vital? Not just for their descendants, but for all of us. Because today, these communities are not just survivors, they're thriving. They are living bridges connecting India to countries all across the globe. They're a diaspora that was forged in fire, and now they represent the very heart of Indian culture and perseverance on the world stage. And thankfully, there is a growing movement to make sure this history is never forgotten again. You've got leaders and scholars calling for university chairs to study their history, creating global databases to help people trace their roots, and celebrating a heritage that was once almost stamped out. And that brings us to a final question to think about. The story of the Girmitiya is a powerful, undeniable reminder that culture can be a profound form of resistance. It proves that no matter the hardship, no matter the injustice, the human spirit can find a way to endure, to preserve, and ultimately to triumph.